Well, hey, John, welcome back. For those of you who don't remember, it's been a while. John Pappas, he's joining us again. Oh, I'm hitting the table. He's always about me hitting the table. So, but hey, nice to have you back.
No problem.
And I'm glad to hear that everything's going well on the home front there.
Yep.
So, okay. How's your brother enjoying married life? That's good.
Yeah, they're doing good. Doing good. Sister-in-law's good. Baby's due first week of May.
Dude, man.
Yeah.
See? Right. That's very cool. Very cool.
8-10 weeks away.
All right. So now your dad's just waiting on you, right? But that's okay. You got some stuff planned anyway, so that's good. So, but where I want to start off today is I want to give a very, very big thank you. See, I'm getting up already, and let's see here.
So every time he gets up, John, you have to entertain us.
So, from one of our listeners, I just got, because I've been talking about saints of the day and everything like that. So I got this wonderful collection. I know you can't see it up there, of the Synaxis of all of the saints. So one of our listeners donated this to us. This is an absolutely great book because unlike, okay. By the way, it's February, right?
Yes.
So a lot of times, and I know this is the Greek version here, but a lot of times we'll go into the Menaion books. Okay, and we can't do that either?
Not next to the mic.
Oh, okay. So you go into the Menaion books, and in there they'll have the service, and they'll have a very small section where it has the Synaxis, and they'll talk about the life of that saint. What this is, though, is this is a comprehensive guide of all the saints. So, for example, for today, right, February
17th.
17th. You know what tomorrow is?
The 18th.
Yeah. 37 years of being married. Our anniversary is tomorrow. Our anniversary is tomorrow, man. She's lived with me for 37 years, man. I'm surprised I'm not dead, right?
John, how could you not know that?
Hey, that's right, John. Come on, get on the stick here. I mean,
Hope you have your present ready.
Yeah. So you have every saint, and then you have a story of each saint, because in the Synaxis you only have a small story of like the primary saint, but this is all of the saints. So on the 17th day of the month, we celebrate the memory of the great holy martyr Theodore Tyrone of the Conscript. Came from Amasia in Pontius, and Roman legionary at the time of Maximus. So we have the whole story here. So when saints come up, I am now prepared. So to that listener, thank you very, very much. That is an awesome, awesome gift. So and it's a double, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it home, and then that's going to be my anniversary gift to my wife, because then I'm going to say, look at this beautiful gift that we received, because wouldn't you want a book of the saints, right?
Yeah. Well, this isn't just the book. They got you the whole series.
So the whole series, every year, every month is up there. Yeah, I got the whole thing. Very cool. Very cool. So,
All right, so we'll start with some questions tonight. First one's from Charlie Juliet. Hi, Father. If your situation was different, example, not a parish priest and not married, etc., would you consider becoming a monk on Mount Athos or similar? And if not, why not?
okay, so I do not. I personally do not have the calling to be a monastic. I've spent 2 weeks on Mount Athos. It is not quite the life that I am ready for. Like priesthood, the monastic life, you have to be called to. Like, some people do it as an escape, they're depressed, or they're not doing well in their life. There's all kinds of problems, the stress of the world. You can't go there to escape, because the first thing the monks will tell you is, hey, you know what? You got to deal with this. You got to deal with life. You got to get all that settled out. What I think my calling, well, I shouldn't say think, what my calling is I very much enjoy engaging with people in the world. I mean, I like that. I mean, this is why I'm doing this. Yep. This is what I really, really enjoy. I've enjoyed it. That's the most of what I've enjoyed in my corporate life too, is that, you know, going out with people after the business day is over. Yeah, we do engineering stuff and that's all fun and games. That's great. But it's that camaraderie that you have, you know, after 5 o'clock, so to speak, right? You go in, you hang out, you know, you talk. And that really, that camaraderie, a lot of that is what brought me to priesthood, because now I'm like getting paid to do it. You know, now my whole life is about, you know, the communion with one another. So, but I don't see myself in that kind of communion. That's certainly not to say that it's not right, but it's definitely not what I would see as what God has called me to do. So,
Do they allow whiskey on Mount Athos?
I have not seen any, and I couldn't do wine all the time. I mean,
there's a technical reason.
there is a technical reason, right? I have not the whole time that I was on the mountain. I saw more than enough wine. They make their own wines, but I did not see a single Scotch whiskey on the mountain. So they do have raki though.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So when you go to the hospitality house, to the Floxania house, the very first thing that they serve you is raki or tsiporo, whichever one you want, and then lukumia.
Not bad.
You know what lukumia are?
Oh, what is it?
Oh.
He has a book on Mount Athos delicacies.
I should know this.
Oh, actually, that's one of the things we're going to be offering at Lent.
Oh, he's grabbing. Hold on.
Hold up. This is more than show and tell.
So,
If this
He's grabbing some items.
it's going to end up being eat and tell. So, well, John, while Father is off on his adventure, how have you been?
I have been good. Getting through winter. Today was 50 degrees out, which was nice, but it's going to be cold this weekend. So hopefully a few more weeks of winter, and we can get through it and get the sun out again, and everyone enjoying themselves outside.
All right, here we go.
okay. So anyway, and these are official. It's like
Yeah. I don't want to. Okay, there we go.
This is Greek eat and taste night, but I'm not going to have any because I got to talk. So most people know what lukumi are. Is basically what they are is they're like a gelatin, you know, like that kind of sweet kind of gelatin jelly candy, right? So
really
typically known in America as Turkish delights, but no Greek is going to call it a Turkish delight. I'm telling you that right now. And then, so I have that in my thing. And so what we're going to be offering, during Lent is both Holy Spirit and I obtained these wonderful graphic books on the Holy Mountain. It's the story of the Holy Mountain in pictures. It's a beautiful guide. And so we're going to be offering these. I haven't priced it out yet, but it's a wonderful book about tells the story of the Holy Mountain. But there's a lot of very, very beautiful pictures in here, so we're going to be offering that up during Lent. Man, you really had me going on the show and tell thing there.
Next question's from Tothian. Hello, may our great God and Savior Jesus Christ bless you all. My question is,
Thank you, sir.
is it mandatory for churches to face the east? I know there are Orthodox churches that are converted from other denominations and face other directions. But if a new church is being built, can it face the west because the facade of it must be in the main street, for example?
So, at my last parish, we built a brand new church, and that's what we did. Is there was a city code about how buildings have to face and where the address has to be. So we were able to get an exemption to that code on a religious basis because our front door had to face, our altar had to face to the east. So we were able to get a zone variance on that. But if you do your best, it should face to the east, because the idea being that we never know when Christ is going to come, so we want to be facing in that direction that he's going to rise. All right. The only thing is with our church, because the back of the altar is not a window, we won't know if he comes. because we will see him. All right. So usually there's a window that's there, but do your best. And if zoning ordinance doesn't allow it, or some physical obstacle doesn't allow you to do it, it's not a big deal. There are churches that the altar doesn't necessarily face east, but you have to make your best effort to do it.
Got it. Next question is from Trench. Hello, some interesting questions. Some say I hope they see it. Greek Orthodox. Okay. Greek Orthodox Church felt that if one believes in Oriental Orthodox, Catholicism, Jeffersonian, etc., they were called heretics. Were they wrong that they used that word, and if so, what has changed?
Well, if we're going to talk, let's talk about the easy one. The easy one is the Jeffersonian Church. Okay, we all know that Thomas Jefferson, because of Age of Reason, Enlightenment, struck out all of the terms relating to Jesus's resurrection. Okay, if you are not going to believe in Jesus's resurrection, then you are a heretic. There's no cutting around that. All right. As far as the Oriental churches go, right now, if you look at a wonderful article that was written by, I believe, not Josiah Trent, but oh geez, I can see his name. It's gonna come to me. He was one of the professors at St. Vlad's, and he talked about the continuing dialogue for us to come closer. We are Orthodox brethren, so right now we are not calling the Oriental Church heretic church. There are some differences, just like with the Coptic Church. We don't call them heretics, but there is some ways that we are not in communion. We have to work that out. As far as the Catholic Church goes, that's really a hot button, because you've certainly got a group of Orthodox who feel that because they left us and because of some of their more radical doctrines, that they are heretical. And for some of the things like making the Theotokos a co-mediatrix with us, that yes, that they are a heretical church. But I would say the mainstream of Orthodoxy sees them as schismatic, meaning that they have separated from us, but that we both preach the same thing dogmatically, maybe not doctrinally, but dogmatically, and that there is the ability for us to reunite.
Part B to that question from Trench. From looking up info, it seems that plenty of Greeks are not named after saints. So is it either Greek or saints' names? Which some info says Christ gave Greeks name to the apostles?
Well, you have to be named after a saint. Okay, so if we look at the canons of the church, it doesn't say pick a Greek name; it says pick a saint's name. All right, Ian, it is John, but it's more of a Nordic or Scottish variation on that. All right, Patrick is a saint, but he is not. That's not a Greek name. Trying to think of another name that is not necessarily Greek. Hey, do me a favor. Can you close my fridge for me?
Valentine.
Saint Valentine. That's right, Saint Valentine. That's not necessarily a Greek name. That's a Roman name. I'm trying, because there are certainly Roman names, right, that are not Greek. So the idea is
Nicholas Greek?
Yeah, see, I think Nick. I don't know.
But it's an interesting one.
Yeah,
so many Greeks are named Nicholas. Nick.
Yeah, right.
I'll look it up.
And I'm trying to think of some more, but again, the point is they don't have to be Greek. That's what a lot of Orthodox think. But it has to be a saint. Columbo. Saint Columbo was a saint of the Scottish Isles, and he is a saint of the 4th century, recognized by the Orthodox Church. But Columbo is definitely not a Greek name.
And all the adventures that he had in the 70s were excellent. But no,
Columba, yeah, not Columbo.
It actually is Greek. Means victory of the people.
Okay, right. Niki Laos. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. Sorry, swallowed wrong. Yeah, very good.
Next question is from Aaron. Hey everyone. First question: is it sinful for someone who is sick with a serious illness to refuse treatment so that they can go quicker? Many people in those situations are in serious pain mentally, but also physically. So I was curious what the church's stance was on that.
The church has sorry about that. The church does not or cannot support anything that accelerates your natural death. But if you choose to refuse treatment, then you are not speeding it up, because it's up to God, right? It's God that decides whether or not. Now, if you have somebody inject you with cyanide, or then you did that, not God, right? But to just say, you know what, I don't want to go through another cancer treatment. I've had a number of parishioners that I know that have told me, you know what, this is the fourth time I've gone through it. I don't want to go through it again. I want to live my life now, and we embrace that. Because everybody has their own time. The question is, where it can get sticky is, let's say you get married, right? And you're you're 31 years old, right? And all of a sudden, you have two kids, your wife, you love your wife and everything like that. Okay, you have a grave illness, all right? And then you say, I don't want to live with the grave illness, so I'm just going to go. You've got a responsibility to your family to do everything that you can to stay in their lives, okay? So the church wouldn't support that decision. Okay, but now if you're like 80 or 85, and they diagnose you with prostate cancer, and they say, you know what, if we give you treatment, you can last another 8 years, but without treatment, you're going to last 4 years. The church has no problem with you saying, you know what, I've lived a good life, I've done what I've done, I'm fine.
So the church, what is specifically the church's stance on euthanasia? Because that's really the topic.
So the church's stance on euthanasia is that it has to be a natural death. So we can eliminate artificial means of life. So let's say you're on a breathing tube, you're on a feeding tube, and everything like that, you're in a coma and stuff like that. The church allows you to remove that, and then it's God's decision whether or not you will die. Okay, but we cannot support a Kevorkian type of death.
Got it.
Does that okay?
Next question is from the Fremd Dinge guy. He writes, "Hi, Father. I remember you saying that Greek is important in Orthodoxy because it's the original language of the New Testament. Wouldn't Hebrew be very important too, because it's the original language of the Old Testament? For example, should we do parts of our church services in Hebrew, just like we do parts of our church services in Greek? Another part, in that most of the prayers and readings of the Old Testament are originally in Hebrew."
So the answer is yes. I mean, we should read it in the original language. The question is, okay, are we going to study Hebrew in our seminary so that we can read it? And the answer to that is no. I mean, the way that we were taught in seminary is, if you truly want to study theology, you should know Greek, and we're talking about ancient Greek. We're talking about liturgical Greek, not modern Greek. Okay, certainly Hebrew, Latin, German, and French.
Not Aramaic?
Well, I guess you really want to read the original text. Yes, you can include Aramaic in that. But those are the biblical, the three, Aramaic, Greek, and Hebrew, are the biblical languages. But most of the commentary has been done by Greek, Latin, German, and French. So those are important exegetical hermeneutical languages that we need to possess. So yes, we should do that. But actually, in some of the readings, we actually use the Aramaic terms. Ila sabachthani. Oh God, why have you forsaken me? We don't say that in Greek. We say that in the original Aramaic. So there are places in the gospel reading that we actually use the Aramaic language. Maybe not the Hebrew. phylacteries. We talk about, and Jesus says, and they like to keep their phylacteries long. Okay, that's not a Greek word. That's a Hebrew word. So there are some words that we still retain that Hebrew or that Aramaic tinge to it. But he is right, or she.
I don't know.
No, no, they are right.
Real quick, speaking of languages, I scroll down. There's a question that is written in Greek, which I think is awesome. But I just want to point out that although the star of our show does read and speak Greek, not all of our hosts do. So I do ask that in the future that we post questions in English.
Oh, okay.
Just for the sake of our hosts. I don't know if you do, John, but just generally
Generally speaking, right?
No.
And then you can save that, and then I'll just take a look at it, and then I can answer it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Hold on. Sorry, I lost my train. Okay, next question is from Napoleon Bonaparte. Is the tree of the cross the same as the tree of life?
Well, I mean, from a literal standpoint, I would say no. The Jesus is life. He's the bread of life. Who eats my flesh, so on and so forth. But he was crucified, and we say tree, okay, but we mean on a cross, okay. So this is something that is carved. The tree of life is something that existed in the Garden of Eden. So this was an actual tree. So we don't necessarily create that amount of symbolism, that the wood of the cross is the wood of the original tree. We don't necessarily say that. The most that we will extend is say that Christ here is the new Adam. We have Adam who sinned and brought death, and we have Jesus Christ as the new Adam who now through his death frees us from death. So we have that symbolism, but no, those are two different unique things.
That's good that you specified, because I thought the Tree of Life was the centerpiece of Disney's Animal Kingdom, but that's just.
Is that in the Small World ride?
No, it's a theme park. It's their zoo theme park.
Oh, is that? Oh, okay.
The centerpiece is this like 100-something foot tall tree with all the animals carved into it. Yeah.
Oh wow! So that's literally tree. Yeah, tree of life. Yeah, cool.
Next question is from Nicholas D. Philip Nicholas. Would you say there's any sort of similarity or connection between the parable of the prodigal son and Jacob and Esau?
Jacob and Esau.
Jacob, yeah, which I liked your video on.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. So one of the cool things about the videos is that I got to say, Demos is very, very good at coming up with a lot of those Old Testament, New Testament motifs where he can bring those together. So your biblical schooling, I am very impressed with. I mean, some of those motif matches that you can do are very, very good.
Thank you.
But getting back to the question, so the idea of the prodigal son, right, is the one is the one where he wants his inheritance from the father. He gets it. He wastes it. Then he's like, oh man, I can't live with pigs anymore. So he comes home and he asks to be a slave. And the father says, no, you are my son. And so he embraces him. The symbolism there, of course, is us who have the Father is God the Father, and we are the ones who have left. And through the sacraments of reconciliation and confession, we come back to our Father. Okay. Now, in Jacob and Esau, we have something a little bit different. We have Esau. Oh man, I get the two all mixed up all the time.
Esau was the one who had the birthright,
and Jacob stole it. Jacob stole the birthright. I'm always getting the two mixed up there. So we do have. It's not anything. I mean, yes, Jacob did commit the sin of deceiving the father into stealing the birthright. Okay, so but there and certainly he had some trials and tribulations when he left. So we can make that analogy somewhat. But when the point of that story is him reconciling with his brother, okay, so there's not necessarily the father-son motif as much as the two brothers coming together, and then obviously then the family. Well, actually no, because we don't have that until the Technicolor Dreamcoats.
Yeah, Joseph.
We don't have that until actually Joseph. So there is some amount of similarities there, but in this case, what we have more important in Jacob and Esau is we have a recognition of, as we pointed out in the Sunday school video, is that Jacob had to make a decision, which was, if I face my brother and ask for forgiveness, which is the right thing to do, I could then face death. I mean, he's got an army that could kill me. The prodigal son was not expecting death. All he was expecting was that he'd be treated like a slave. Now, the similarities are that he was surprised by the father, and Jacob was surprised by the action of Esau. So we have a similarity there. So we can't make exact parallels, but there are some.
The motifs.
Some of the motifs will work there. Reconciliation certainly will work there.
Next question is from Marcia. Does your church have social events?
Well, we have the #1 rated festival in Rochester.
Yeah, but I have banned all events. There is no fun to be had in the church at all. I've banned everything that is fun.
No dancing in Rochester.
That's right. We're going Baptist. We're not there. No, we have a huge. In fact, if you look, I mean, I just signed off on the good news for March, and I mean, there is like, we had to, normally our good news is about 23 pages. It's 32 pages now. Because, I mean, we got the Apocryphatico, we've got the Lenten speaker, we've got the St. Patrick's dance, we've certainly got the Greek festival coming up, we've got the joint Annunciation Vesper service. I mean, it's a whole lineup. There's a huge amount of, or large amount of social events, but there's equally so, we're trying to make sure that we balance that with church events too, right? So there's a nice balance here between the two. We've already had 4 great Goy events. We've gone snow tubing. We've done the not the House of Mystery. What is that?
Escape room.
We did the escape room. We've gone to movies. We're looking at we helped do the food can drive. So that's our youth group. What we have not done, where we're lacking and we really got to work on, is you all who have graduated, got a job, but, not old enough to retire.
No.
Right? Not a kid,
No.
not a teen,
No.
right? Not a college student. So you're the demographic that now what we want to do is we want to do, some of those things. We started to do, like with the ladies, we had a wine tasting night. We had wine and candy, which was a beautiful event. We had a Scotch and cigar night with a couple of the gentlemen. So we want to try to kind of do more of those things. But that's kind of a long answer to, or do we have social events? But we want to describe some of them.
Well, there's something we're going to bring up later that I know this is going long, but we do need to point out is, you mentioned it, our Lenten speaker, Dr. Jeannie Constantino, and that's going to be on March 12th. And we're actually, we can announce it now, after her visit, we're going to be live streaming her 2 talks. So it's going to be a pair of 3 and 4 hour live streams on that day if you can't make it. But we implore everybody who watches this show to watch at least a little bit of those live streams, because we're going to have her on this show, so you can ask her directly any of the questions you have. Could you say a little bit more about Dr. Jeannie?
She is actually a presbyter. Also, her and her husband, he has a parish in San Diego. So she is a professor, has been a professor at several universities now at, I believe, I've got to check, University of San Diego. She is one of the more noted and prominent Orthodox theologians, or modern Orthodox theologians, living, who is able to make solid and researched Orthodox commentary on many of the issues of today. Her specialties include the Book of Revelation, which when I was in Flint, I invited her to come and speak. but she is also well versed in the history and the application of the Church Fathers, the Holy Fathers, and she's going to be coming to speak on her book, Thinking Orthodox, which is understanding the Orthodox mind, how an Orthodox thinks, the East thinks differently from how the West, the Roman Catholic Church, thinks. So she's going to be talking specifically about that. The program is, and she teaches also at a doctorate level, and sits on a few boards that discuss theological ideas and concepts. She also has a regular podcast on Ancient Faith Radio. So as Demos says, we're going to be live streaming her service, her talk here. So the program is going to be from 10 to 12:30 for the first part. We're going to break for a short lunch, and then she's going to speak from 1 to 5, and then we're going to give her some time to answer some questions, and then any kind of questions that follow up from that, Demos, we said we'll do on that next show.
Yeah.
But really, the other thing really quick that I like about Dr. Constantinou is, I'm trying not to be rude to other professors, but she's dynamic. She's interesting to listen to, because sometimes, you've got a teacher, they know their stuff, but man, you're like, but she's dynamic. And the other thing I really like about her is that, pardon my French, she doesn't take crap from anybody. If you ask her something, she's going to give you the Orthodox position. If you don't like it, it is what it is. I love that, So she's not making apologies for who we are, and she is one of those very straight talkers, and I love that. I think that's great. So you're really gonna enjoy this, whether you're able to be here for that, because like I said, in person is going to be great. So if you're able to travel here, we'd love to have you here. We're definitely going to save a seat for you, but if not, we're certainly going to have the live stream available for you.
Nice. All right, next question is from Chana. What doesn't the American Greek Church condemn more vigorously? The Islamification of occupied Cyprus and the conversion of so many Orthodox churches in Turkey. Isn't the truth that our religion is weak?
So, fine line, at least in Orthodoxy, there's a fine line in Orthodoxy and politics. Now, in Protestant circles, it is not unknown, and it is certainly not frowned upon to make political commentary from the pulpit. Gun control, abortion, human trafficking, those things will be said from the pulpit, all right? And depending upon the pastor that you have, you're going to have either a conservative viewpoint, right? Abortion cannot be done in any case whatsoever. You cannot have abortion. It is wrong. You're going to hell. Then you can have a very liberal pastor who says, it's the woman's body. She's got to decide, so we can't condemn her. So, we just have to live with the fact of abortion. Okay, so speaking about politics from the pulpit is really dangerous, because a human being, the priest, pastor, can't separate himself effectively from one side or the other. He's going to take a side, okay? So the safest thing that the church has found is that from the pulpit, you have to be very careful about how you preach that line, all right? So should the church encourage efforts at negotiating some type of peace between northern Cyprus, which is more Muslim occupied or Turkish occupied, and the Greek half, which is the southern half? So should the church encourage those kinds of discussions? 100%. Okay, but I think dangerous ground for the church, or I'm not saying I think, but it is dangerous ground for the church to take a stand one way or the other. I know that sounds cowardly, like, come on, take a stand. Okay, but that could turn into dangerous rhetoric, because what it becomes is the Turkish people should leave Northern Cyprus. And then that discussion then is going to be carried by somebody else who is going to say the Turks should leave from all occupied areas. And that's going to lead to, well, you know what? All Turks are Muslims, therefore they're all bad. I don't think we're humans and we can't control that escalation. So I think that we have to be very careful as a church what we preach. I mean, I've had people that have told me, Father, why don't you say something about gun control, about child molestation, pornography? Yes, we can speak about why pornography is bad, but when we're speaking about legislation and political action, it just becomes tricky because it can lead us to a path that the church then can't support.
Well, the church is coming from a virtuous state of mind to begin with. I mean, in the best case scenario, right? And then you have politicians who, by their very nature, cannot be, they cannot not always be trusted. So you have a schism there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. And so the church has to walk that balance. So the church has no problem with, let's say the Southern Cyprus, taking up not arms, but taking a political stance and saying we want our property back. So we want Turkey to sit down at the table and we want to negotiate this. Okay, the church can support that because that is, giving land back to, let's say, the rightful owners. We have no part in supporting that. But to hear that rhetoric from the pulpit can be, again, a very, very tricky thing.
Next question is from Nicholas. Why do the Greek Orthodox Church is having a Saturday of Souls, but the Syrian Church does not?
Really? I guess I was unaware that Syrian Orthodox do not celebrate the Saturday of Souls. I guess that's one I've got to look up. But I thought Saturday of Souls was an Orthodox concept, not a Greek concept. So that's going to require a little bit of research because if she's talking about Syrian Orthodox, then she might be also talking about, or he might also be talking about the Coptic Church. So I'll have to look that up. I wasn't aware that they do not celebrate that.
I hadn't heard that either.
A question from Irene. I spilled some holy oil on my shirt. Now it's stained. I blotted it out best I could with water, but the grease stain remains. Can I put the shirt in the laundry to wash it? Won't the water drain into the sewer?
So the practice that we have there is the same practice that we would have with the baptismal garment. Okay, because people always ask me, Father, what do I do with the baptismal garment? It's got holy oil on it. So the first washing of anything that has a blessed sacrament upon it, whether it's Eucharist, whether it's holy oil, holy water, whatever it is, that item should first be washed like in a bucket by hand. Okay, so put your soap suds and all that, wash it, and then take that water and pour it out in the yard. That first washing, okay? Once that's done, then you can take it and you can put it into the regular laundry and it'll be okay. But that first washing needs to be done by hand so that you can get as much of it off as you can, and then from there you can go ahead and wash it in regular wash.
Question from Trench. Why does the Russian church have the candles at the front of the church while the Greek has it at the entrance?
I mean, if I just, if I think about Russian winters, and blowing cold, I mean, we have ours in the narthex, okay, and in Greece, I mean, you're not getting any, Arctic blasts when you open up a door, right? Okay, so you can actually have the candle stand outside in Greece, right? So, but I would think that the entrance of a Russian church in the wintertime, the logistics of having your candle stand there, and I could just imagine, it's a brutal Russian winter. You got your boots on, you got 4 layers of coat on, what you need to do is you need to take all of that off first, right? And then just kind of warm up. And then from there, then you can light those candles. So I think part of it is a logistics reason. Okay. The other reason too could be, and another thing to check in. The other reason too could be is that those candles provide a huge amount of light, and in the times before electricity, it gave that front area of the church the light that the priest would need and the chanters need to read the service. So that could be another reason too, is it does provide light.
Question from Aaron. What is the proper way to address a deacon? I've heard some say deacon followed by their name, and I've even heard father before. Which is correct?
So that's a really good question. All right. In non-Greek Orthodox parishes, like Antiochian parishes, OCA parishes, talking about here in America, they have deacons who remain deacons for quite a long time. So they don't necessarily advance quickly into the priestly ranks. So their proper title is deacon. Okay. In the Greek archdiocese here in America, deacons don't last long. I was a deacon for 3 days. My buddy, he was a deacon for a day. There's others that may be a deacon for a week. So the bishops tend to tell the laity to call them father because they're not going to be a deacon that long. So just get used to calling him father, because within 3 weeks he's going to be a priest. So that's why they should be called deacon. But because of that rapid transition, because we really need priests, we have many, many more Greek Orthodox parishes than we have OCA parishes or we have Antiochian parishes, and so in that sense they have priests, and then those men that come in become deacons then, and they stay deacons. So it's proper to call them a deacon. But just because they're going to transition very rapidly to priest, they just say, you know what, just call him father and just kind of get used to that.
We have a follow-up question to the earlier question about Greeks and saints' names. Specifically, the question is, my question is that some Greeks do not have saint names, which is not celebrated on any day of the year. So why is that? Yet they are baptized Christians. So how does that happen?
Well, okay. So they're probably thinking like they know somebody named Apollo or Aphrodite or Zeus. Probably not Zeus, but
I think the name's making a comeback.
So in the early period of the Greek archdiocese here in America, priests weren't necessarily theologically educated. Okay, because there was a lot of parishes, and just not everybody was capable of paying the money to go to seminary. And it wasn't until really the 1930s that we even had a seminary. Okay, so a lot of the priests were priests because they had a good voice. You're a good chanter. So John, I'm gonna take you. I'm gonna show you how to swing the censer. I'm gonna teach you how to say the service, and then that's it. But when it came to the theology of what can we do, what can we not do, they weren't that educated. Okay, so they didn't know the canon that said it's got to be a saint name. All they knew is it's got to be a Greek name. That's what they knew. Okay, so when they came to them and they said Apollo, and they went, oh, you know what? My grandfather was named Apollo. Cool name. Let's do that. All right. Now, the vast majority of Greek Orthodox priests are highly educated. They all have masters of divinity. So they know, and they're very well educated in the canons of the church. So that practice is not so much anymore, all right? But for those older people, they would be older now. It's just that those priests didn't really know because they weren't educated. It's not their fault, but they were more thinking along patristic lines, and I mean paternal, not patristic, paternal lines, like, hey, Greek is good, so pick a Greek name, it'll be good.
Aren't there many Orthodox who have their secular name and a baptismal name.
Yeah, Patrick is one of them for sure. John is another one, right? I mean, you didn't receive another name, right? They
No.
gave you John, and John was your name.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Somehow Demosthenes got through.
yeah. There is a Saint Demosthenes, though.
I think there are two of them, but there's one that's more famous.
Right.
The next question is from Anthony. Father mentioned the book The Journey of Marriage. Where can I go to acquire such? My son is getting married, and I would like to give it to him.
You know what? I'll tell you what. Send me, email me, and I will send you a free copy. Because I had to order a bunch because this parish loves to get married. There's. I mean, you're slow, buddy. You got to catch. No, I'm kidding. But I mean, I've been here 3 years and I've done like 26 marriages.
Wow.
I mean, you guys are rocking here in terms of, in 10 years. You know how many marriages I did at Flint? Like 11. In 10 years. Here I've done 26.
Wow.
So I had to buy like 2 cases of these books. So email me your address at
agocny@gmail. It's already in the comments.
and I'll send you out a book.
Next question is from GRK. Do you know of the big fight that happened in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in November 2008, and why did it happen?
I know about it, but I don't know the details of why it happened. I'm kidding, but it's probably an Orthodox Catholic thing or something like that. I mean, there's always some kind of ruckus. I mean, when you get that many people in one, because that Holy Church of the Holy Sepulchre, that is a small church. I mean, it looks huge because of the optic lenses that they use. Mm-hmm. It is a small space. I mean, Terry and I have been there, and you get a lot of fanatical people in there. I mean, it's a recipe for disaster. So it could be any number of reasons, but I can look at that.
Next question is from Miggs. Between Pope John Paul II, Benedict, and Francis, who has shown more eager or willingness to at least continue dialogue for communionship?
Between the churches, I'd have to say Ratzinger. And I say Ratzinger, not Benedict, because for a very, very long time, Cardinal Ratzinger was the face of the Catholic Church to the Orthodox Church. I mean, he is the preeminent living theologian of the Roman Catholic Church. I mean, and he had very Orthodox leanings, so he was very willing to engage in dialogue with our theologians. So we're not just talking about photo shoots between Bartholomew and Francis or something like that. I mean, Cardinal Ratzinger was in the dirt, getting his feet getting his hands dirty and really in with us about Orthodox dialogue and Catholic dialogue in terms of working out what are those sacramental issues, how do we work out this, and really turn in terms of ecumenism. So I would say probably it would be then Pope Benedict would be the one who did most of that work, but did it as Cardinal Ratzinger, and then that very good relationship continued between him and Bartholomew when he became Pope. A good question, though. That's it. All of them have good relations with the Orthodox Church, but I think Cardinal Ratzinger was the one who really got in the weeds with us on that.
Next question is from Tothian. There are some people I watch on YouTube. Thank you. When I hear them take the name of my Lord Jesus Christ, whom I love the most, in vain, I stop watching them. The question is, would it be sinful if I keep watching them, even though they do this? I gotta agree with you there because we have there's some comedians that we've watched on YouTube, or some programs that we've watched on YouTube, and we find that disturbing. I mean, it's more than offensive. It's uncomfortable. It just goes against the grain. I mean, if I sat here and I railed about
your father and said all kinds of bad things, how long are you going to sit there and listen to it? I mean, are you going to wait around until I say something good?
No.
No, you're just going to get up and leave.
Yeah.
That's the way that I felt watching that. It's even I'm trying to think the right. It's past uncomfortable. It's past offensive. I mean, you are talking about a member of my family, but it's even deeper than that. So I don't really care what you have to say after that because it's all bothersome. So we have turned those programs off because they don't edify us in any way, right? Listening to somebody talk bad about your father is not helping you in any way at all, right? And you just don't want to have anything to do with that person. We should feel the same way about Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
But if I may clarify on this, just so everybody is clear, now something that I've noticed having traveled around the United States is a lot of people in the Northeast, especially around New Jersey and parts of New York, one of the exclamations that they make is
GD.
Yeah.
GD. Yeah.
Well, not just that, but JC. They just use it as an exclamation, and it's part of, for good or bad. Well, for bad in this case, it's part of their culture. But furthermore, like for instance, one of my favorite films is Back to the Future. Marty McFly, the character played by Michael J. Fox, says JC quite a few times as an exclamation.
Yeah, right.
So where does that? I mean, do I stop watching Back to the Future, or?
And again, you bring up a good point. I do want to take a sideline because there's an important point there about what we do as Orthodox. And I'm just going to give you a personal story here. When I was in the military, I mean, our language was colorful. Let's just put it that way, right? We were colorful, all right? But we had made it a policy between Presbyterian and I, that we would not curse in front of one another, nor use any kind of, bad language, other than just cursing. And so we extended this to our friends. So when we would have friends that would come over, and drop the F-bomb, GD, JC, we would say, nicely to them, we would say, hey, you know what? I mean, come on, we prefer that you don't do that. And 90% of them said, you know what? Okay, if it bothers you, we're not going to do it. Now, we don't know what they did with their other friends, and we really can't control them. But we noticed that when they were around us, they cleaned up their language. So that was me witnessing how to be a silent Orthodox witness. We just said, this bothers us. We didn't say, don't say or anything like that, but we said, that really bothers us. And because they were our good friends, they didn't do it. Did we lose a couple of friends along the way? Yeah, but you know what? Hey, good riddance, right? So it didn't bother me. But we kept the vast majority of our friends because they respected us. So that's one part of this, okay? The other part about the movies, we got to have some degree of discernment. I got to say, I like Back to the Future, but it wasn't, it was a moment. I had to get over that moment. But I think from I agree with not the caller, what are we calling them? The chatter. That sounds so bad. There's too much chatter, right? We got to think of a cool term for that.
Our online parish.
Our online parish, where we've, like George Carlin,
Yeah.
Okay, when I was
said them all.
Yeah, when I was younger, when I was a teen, and he was a little bit, he wasn't so off as he was today.
I mean, in the 70s, he got really edgy.
Yeah. And now, we watched him for about like 30 seconds, and that was about it. We just had to turn him off because nothing that he says is edifying to us. So in that sense, it was so pervasive that his whole thing was lost. Whereas in Back to the Future, like I said, it was a moment, and then we got over it, and then we went on.
Yeah, but I think with George Carlin, that was kind of the point.
Oh yeah, and then he was just mad at the church because when he went off on his church tirades, oh man, that was just too much. It just I had to shut it off.
Next question is from Mark. What might the Orthodox Church think about the lack of grace being given to those baptized incorrectly by the Catholic priest who said, "We baptize you instead of I"? Doesn't God's grace cover that?
Did you hear about this? Apparently,
Okay.
I was gonna share it with you. Apparently, and I might be getting this wrong, but there was a priest who most of his baptisms were deemed were deemed what's the word I'm looking for? They were revoked because he used the wrong term.
Oh.
So they have to get rebaptized.
Okay. Now, we'd have to. The point is, we baptize you in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. If those last three are not correct, if I baptize you in the name of Johnny Pappas, that doesn't count. I have to do that baptism over. As much as you think highly of yourself, I'm sorry, but that baptism doesn't count. But
this is the specific story.
Okay.
Thousands of baptisms invalidated by the priest's use of one wrong word, Phoenix, Arizona.
Wow.
What do we have the one wrong?
Oh yeah, he said we baptize you instead of I baptize you.
But what did he say in the name of the Father?
He said the name Father.
I don't know. That's really. I mean, talk about a technical foul.
But Mark brings up a good point. Doesn't God's grace cover that? It's
Of
not going to
course.
be like, oh, you used the wrong pronoun. I'm sorry.
No.
We have Twitter for that.
We have Twitter for that.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. It does not invalidate the sacrament. In fact, even the canons of the church cover that. If the priest does say the priest does say the service, incorrectly, meaning, it can't be incorrectly that he doesn't use Father, Jesus, no, right? But that the sacrament is still valid. So in that sense, yes, God's grace covers that. I think this is, I can't even see where this would even exist in the Orthodox Church. This is what made the second, the Big Fat Greek Wedding.
I didn't see the second.
Okay, so the premise of the second one was kind of stupid because it all revolved around that they weren't married because the priest didn't sign the document. We are not. The Orthodox Church is not a technical church in that sense. Just because the priest didn't sign it, he did the entire service. The piece of paper is just that. The service is the service. Okay, and then you have a witness, which is the paper, and we have a record of it in the book. The plot of that was just absolutely goofy. That made no sense at all. And that's the same thing that we have here. He said, he said in the name of Father, Son, Holy Spirit. The Orthodox Church would never complain about something like this.
There might be more to the story. Maybe there's a reason they want to go after this priest.
Could be, but if what you're saying, based on what you're saying, no, we would not rebaptize.
Question from Miggs. The Jews strictly believe one should not work at all on Saturday as their Sabbath. Catholics and Orthodox celebrate Sunday as theirs. What is the Orthodox view of working on Sunday if you still attend... Demos, what's that abbreviation? Attend...
I was looking at something else.
Devout?
Oh, Divine Liturgy.
Oh, okay, Divine Liturgy.
Okay, so John, just give it to me one more time real quick.
The Jews strictly believe one should not work at all on Saturday as their Sabbath.
Mm-hmm.
Catholics and Orthodox celebrate Sunday as theirs.
Mm-hmm.
What is the Orthodox view of working on Sunday if you still attend Divine Liturgy?
Okay, so in fact, the Orthodox position extends to the fact that if you are in a using pandemic terms, if you are in a critical work, what did they call it? Essential workforce. If you are an essential workforce, like you're a nurse, a doctor, you're military, okay, you're even exempted from those services. Okay, you have a valid reason to not be there because you're doing something else. What both from a Jewish perspective and from a Christian's perspective, what people get wrong is the idea of what no work means. It doesn't mean no work. It means no material work of the cosmos, which is of the world. It still means that you should do God's work. So that day can be devoted to working at a soup kitchen, working at a home shelter, feeding somebody, charity. It can be the works of God. So it's not a day of, hey, let me just sit back on my couch, drink a couple of beers, and do nothing. That's not what that means, either for the Jews or for the Christians. That was supposed to be a day that you took time off from the material world, in the words of Madonna, and you did God's work. Now, the first work of God is to offer him worship. That's why it begins with the divine liturgy. But after that, now those works are supposed to be, as Demos said, works devoted to charity.
Next question is from Nicholas.
I like that. That was a good question.
If you haven't gone to church in over a year due to COVID-19, do you have to go to confession before you go back to church?
Well, okay. At the very least, I would make contact with the priest and just say, hey, I've been absent. It feels really good to be back. Talk to the priest. Just welcome yourself back. Hey, I'm back, and I just wanted you to know. I think the priest would really appreciate hearing that you have taken the time to come back to the physical church now and participate in the body of Christ. And I think he'd really like to hear that. So, okay, and at that point, that discussion that you may have with him, you may bring that up. You know what, Father? I think at this point, it's been a while. I'd like to have confession, and he'll schedule something with you. Okay, so I'm not saying, yes, you absolutely have to come back for confession, but I would at least make yourself known to the priest again. Just come back and say, hey, Father, it's good to be back in church again. And then you decide at that point in the conversation that the two of you are having what's the most appropriate next step.
Isn't it an Orthodox rule that if you miss, I
Yes.
don't mean this seriously,
No.
but if you miss 3 consecutive services, you will be excommunicated?
You are excommunicated from the church. So in the akrivia of the church, good point. In the akrivia of the church, then yes, you must go to confession so that you can put yourself back in reconciliation with the church so that you can receive communion. The economy of the church is, make yourself known again. But Demos is absolutely right. The canons of the church are still very, very clear.
So at the end of this, there will be 3 Orthodox people.
That's right. All heading back to, which again, why we do the 40-day blessing, right?
Next question is from 1137. Is there a difference between a Greek Orthodox pastor and a Greek Orthodox priest?
No. There is no difference between the person. So a Greek Orthodox priest has pastoral duties. Okay? So the term priest implies performing those rites, R-I-T-E, that are part of divine worship, Vesper service, divine liturgy, morning matin service, and the sacraments. Those are priestly duties. Okay, pastoral duties are going to the hospital, preaching, having communion with people, just in coffee hour. Those are pastoral duties that address the needs of the soul. The priestly ones are those that address the needs of the soul from a more sacramental kind of area. So the priest is a pastor, but he's a priest first, and then he has pastoral duties.
Next question is from Pau. Hi from Australia. Were you Hi
Down
from
under.
Australia. Were you a pilot? And if so, what did you fly?
Yes, so I was a pilot, but not in the military. I was just a ground pounder in the military, as they say. But when I left General Motors, I started an engineering consulting company, and it was the 90s, and I was doing really well, and I always wanted to get a pilot's license, and so I was able to schedule my client schedule so that I could take lessons, and I finally had the money, the disposable income to do it, and I did it. I got my pilot's license, and my first plane was a Piper 140, And then my second plane was a Piper Archer. And boy, we took that thing everywhere. Florida, Oklahoma. I mean, I never took it out west, but I mean, everywhere from in the Midwest, I would fly to client locations. I had an absolutely great time. Now we sold the plane. Now I just rent to fly. We go back and forth to Detroit. We still got some friends there. But really, really quick, when I had enough money that I could buy the airplane, the question was, do I get a high wing or do I get a low wing? You know, and I always loved the movies like the World War II movies like Tora, 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 you know, and Black Sheep Squadron, all those, and they were always low wing, and they looked so cool. And I was like, I gotta have a low wing. I gotta have a low wing. So, you know, both of them fly well, but it just looked more like an airplane, so I ended up with a low wing.
Nice.
I just had to tell that story.
We're gonna go to some people who haven't been heard yet.
Question is from Dominus. Greetings, Father. I have an important question. This might be an obvious question, but are all Orthodox churches in full communion? For example, Greek Orthodox, Serbian Orthodox, Romanian Orthodox, etc.
Well, okay, so the answer, no, not all Orthodox, because Coptic Orthodox churches are not yet in full communion. Oriental Orthodox churches are not yet in full communion. You know, the Russians might say that we are not in communion with them because of some things that happened with the Ukraine, you know. So no, we are not in full communion with all Orthodox churches, but the vast majority of them, yes.
Next question from the Dinosaur Head. A local priest told me the Romanian Synod accepts Catholic converts baptism, but he doesn't agree and follows Athos monks' way of baptizing everyone. Can a priest disobey their bishop in this way? He also told me that that he rebaptizes Orthodox persons from other Orthodox churches. Is this allowed since I thought we only have one baptism and didn't Carthage decide not to rebaptize schismatics?
Yes, and you're absolutely right. I mean, we say it every single Sunday. And I believe in one baptism for the remission of sins. So priests who are rebaptizing those who have been sacramentally and canonically baptized, that is absolutely, wrong. You shouldn't be doing that. Okay, as to the second question, can the priest go against his bishop? No. The answer is no, because every priest takes a vow of obedience to his bishop, and he is responsible for that obedience. It is the bishop who takes on the consequences of what he tells that priest to do. But the priest is in no way free to decide what he should be doing. You know, that is only within the realm of the bishop, because every priest at the beginning of his priesthood swears, and again, I don't say swears because we don't do an oath, but pledges his obedience to the bishop, his bishop, or the bishop.
Next question. I also have another question. Is Antioch?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Antioch Greek Orthodox? Are they the same in full communion? I just want to make sure if it is.
Yeah, the Antiochians are the Arab Christians, Lebanon, Syria, not Egypt, because that would be the Coptic church, but the Syrians, the Jordanians, the Lebanese, those are the Arab Orthodox. Okay, and the Antiochian church is from Antioch of Africa, right? Okay, and so they are in full communion with us.
A quick yes/no question. Are we able to drink water before receiving communion?
Yes, you are able to. I know that you're going to hear from some uber Orthodox. They're going to tell you, no, absolutely nothing can go in your mouth before. But no, you can have water before. There's absolutely nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, you don't want to be drinking water in the communion line, okay? But no, we don't have any problem with you drinking water before communion. And brushing your teeth. Remember, we did the video on that.
Question from Jonas. According to New Testaments, is it allowed to eat animals that do not have cloven hoofs, like like pig and horses.
Yeah. So in Acts, just before they were going to celebrate their meal, Peter was up on the roof. He fell asleep, and he ended up having a dream. And in that dream, he saw then a white sheet come down, a pañá, and in that was all of the animals, and Peter was told, all the animals are okay for you to eat. So we are no longer held under the Jewish law that you cannot eat that with a cloven hoof. So through that that dream that Peter had, that's recorded in the book of Acts, then all the animals are okay for us to eat.
Question from Donis: why not use OCA priest to be a dean at GOA parish?
Yeah, if we could get them, we would do it. But they're using they're using theirs. I mean, we could. You know, I'll tell you though, I got to be honest. Many, a few,
A number
of Greek Orthodox priests don't really want a deacon. You know, a lot of the priests that I talk to, they don't want a deacon, you know, because they're like, you know what? Because the problem with the deacon is that the deacon is the one who says everything. So with the deacon there's not a lot that the priest does. I mean, certainly he's going to do the sacramental portions. He's going to give the blessing. He's going to perform the consecration. We get all that. But some priests, they like to celebrate the liturgy. And when you have a deacon, you don't do much of the liturgy. So, you know, generally speaking, I don't want Orthodox priests calling me up and saying, hey, what are you talking about? But, you know, they really prefer not to have a deacon. All right.
Torian says, speaking of the name Demos, yesterday I learned that your name means the people in Greek. Yes, Torian, that makes me a literal people person.
There you go.
Question from Edward. Father Maggos, what author inspired you to be the person you are today?
Well, that's not author, it's authors. I mean, there were you know, quite a few. Okay. So, you know, let's be honest, you know, and because more than likely, Presbyteria's probably watching this, so she's gonna hit me up when I get home and say, "Yeah, you're a big liar." You know, I was not a big reader. I did not read a lot. You know, I mean, and even as an engineer, I just kind of read technical journals. I really didn't read, so. It wasn't until actually, you know, priesthood when I started doing Bible studies, and then really when I started doing this, that all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? I got to start reading. So, you know, this collection that you see around you is like 10 years old, you know? So, you know, I'm not this great studied person, clearly from my answers. I don't know, right? So when you say, what's my, you know, what author has inspired me, for the vast majority of my life, it was more people. I had good mentors that inspired me. Now, I would say that, you know, having, you know, read some books, I would have to say, you know, St. John Damascus has inspired me. I loved reading St. John Climacus the Latter. I really got a lot out of that. I like John Zizioulas. I mean, he's a little bit hard and tough to understand. And I got to read him a number of different times, but I like John Zizioulas on being in communion. There is C.S. Lewis. You know, I've really gotten into you know, reading C.S. Lewis because I like the way that he can make Christianity available to the common man. I love the way that he presents that. And then let me get one more here. I'm looking for it. Oh. Uh-oh.
More show and tell.
These two I really, really like. One is Two Traditions, One Space, which is actually St. John Damascus, his discussions with the Muslim Caliph. So this is an excellent book on how to enter into a Christian dialogue with Muslims. So really great book. And then, just because I really love the Orient, having traveled extensively in the Orient and having spent a good bit of time there, I really love this book. This is one of my favorites. Is Christ and the Eternal Tao, because Taoism is the religion of China. I mean, Buddhism comes much later, but Taoism is the religion of China. And here we have Tao by Lao Tzu, and he talks about Father, Son, and Holy Spirit in abstract ways in 5000 BC. He's talking about the one, the way, the Trinity, not using those exact words, but he talks about it in a very Trinitarian way. And so those books are really exciting to see that unifying theory, because you've got St. John Damascus talking with Arabs and Muslims on one hand. You've got this book where we actually have a connection now with the Taoist religion. So I like those kinds of connections. So that was a little bit more of a complicated answer.
And that was Edward's second question. Do you have any inspiring literature you recommend?
I've got quite a few there. We have a reading list up, don't we?
Yes, we do.
But so I think what I got to do is I got to do my Lenten reading list, right?
That'd be nice.
Maybe have a Lenten reading
Actually, I think
list.
there's a question here about Lent.
Is it then? Yeah.
But those probably Fount of Knowledge by St. John Damascus, the two books that I showed you here, Sinclair Lewis's just basically the complete collection. That's just that'd be a start. And like I said, John Zizioulas on being in communion.
Question from Tothian: why should we fast before and after receiving the most holy Eucharist?
Well, we shouldn't fast after because now we've received the joy of the Lord. Now we should enjoy. That's why coffee hour is so important, because now we have true communion. We sit down with one another, we talk, we laugh. We have coffee. I mean, we should not fast afterwards. We should fast before, because in the words of the Holy Fathers, we should hunger for that food which brings us salvation. So if you've already had a steak, 5 McDonald's hamburgers, a Wendy's chicken sandwich, you're not appreciating that body. You've got a hunger for that. So fasting before puts you in a state of mind where not only are you physically wanting it, but that physicality also reaches into your soul. So there's a spiritual fulfillment that you get, as well as a physical fulfillment, and you have to desire that. And so fasting before gives you that desire. But no, fasting afterwards, that's the time to be joyous.
A follow-up real quick about the excommunication. Is it 3 consecutive services or 3 consecutive Sundays?
No, Sundays. So 3 consecutive Sundays.
Next question. Hi, I am interested in Orthodoxy, but the only church near me, by hundreds of miles, is a Coptic Orthodox church. Is there any harm to attend?
No. There's again, because really you're not going to see any difference in the liturgical realm. Once you start talking theology, and I mean deep theology, are you going to pick up on that difference? But when you go to that service, it's not. You're going to see St. John Chrysostom's liturgy. You're going to see the same thing. Absolutely go. If that's the church that's nearest to you, please go. Start a good conversation with the priest. Depending upon if it's a true Coptic church, you're probably going to hear the service in Arabic. So I don't know how much, but if it's in America, they probably do a little bit in in English. So I'd say absolutely go and give it a shot.
Father, you state that you were a pilot. Have you lowered your flats for good?
You say you were a pilot.
No. Am present tense. I just got my medical renewed, so I am still a pilot. Have I lowered my flaps? Did he say?
Flats for good. Is that an airplane reference?
I guess, are you grounded for good?
No, heck no, no. And no, in fact, now, I've been out of commission during COVID, but
You do mercy flights, don't you?
well, I did them in Detroit when I had so you can only really do the mercy flights with your own airplane, but yeah, I did. We would do Toys for Tots, the coolest thing ever, because I know I'm digressing, but this is so fun. So once a year they would fill up these warehouses with toys. And then just like World War II, you would go into the briefing room and they'd say, who's going to Ann Arbor? Who's going to Grand Rapids? Who's going to Detroit? And then you'd take a mission and all of us would line up on the tarmac and they'd bring you forward. You'd open up your airplane. They would stuff it full of toys. They would just pack it full of toys. And then they'd go, and you'd fly off. You deliver the toys at your location over there. They'd have coffee, donuts. You get back in your plane. So we would do like 3-4 missions a day. It was just like, kind of like wartime, the way the hell it's set up. I loved it. So I want to get back into that whole Toys for Tots. That was the coolest thing I think I've done with my airplane. But yes, I had done 1 or 2 mercy flights, and so my what I'm really looking forward to is that's going to be during Lent, because Lent's when you really get stressed out and attacked by demons, stuff like that. I'm gonna need some flight time in there. So, Demos, I may be missing a few days. I may be MIA for if you don't see.
Strap me to a wing so I can.
You can come along, man. You can come along.
Oh.
So. Come on, I'm a good pilot, man. I mean, I got over.
I don't think I can be safer with anyone else.
Shoot, I got over 1,000 hours, man. Come on.
Follow-up question: can an assistant pastor perform the Sunday services, confession, etc.? If not, does it invalidate those sacraments?
Okay, so if we're talking about oh man, there's a Greek term that's just left my head for the assistant voithos. So if a priest is a voithos, he can certainly serve the liturgy. That is absolutely not a problem. If he is a priest, he can serve the liturgy in all the services. As far as confession goes, so he can do a baptism, he can do a wedding, he can do all of those things. The only one where he would be restricted would be confession, because confession is not a title. I'm looking for another word. It's a right that's bestowed upon you at a certain time. So that's the only thing that he might not be able to do. Now, if he's an older priest that is maybe has gone into a part-time status, then yeah, he could do that. So except for confession, an assistant priest, if he's a priest, he can do every service that the proistamenos, the head priest, can do.
Question from Ted. But Jesus also said he came not to change one, how do you say that word? Iota?
Right.
Iota of the law. How is this reconciled with our disregard of Old Testament dietary and other rules?
Yes, because he also said that I have not come to abolish the law, I have come to fulfill it. So the understanding has to be that Christ is the Torah. So the Jews are were under the Torah, under the 5 books of Moses. So their covenantal relationship was given by God through the Torah. So that's their covenant with God. They're tied to that. Jesus Christ says, and we say it in every single liturgy, that
we say it in every single liturgy.
We say it in every single liturgy. Take, eat. This is my body, which is shed for you. Drink, eat all of it. This is this. Good grief! Why am I?
Because you're on the spot.
Take, eat. This is my body, which is broken for you.
Sweet.
Take, eat. Drink, eat all of this. This is the cup of the new covenant, which is shed for you. So Jesus Christ now is the fulfilled covenant. So he now is the Torah. So we follow him now. So that's how he means, if you loosen one iota of the the teachings, because he's the fulfillment of those teachings. So what he's saying is, if you loosen one thing of what I tell you, now there's a problem. But we are no longer in the old covenantal relationship, which was the Torah. Jesus Christ has now become the fulfillment of the Torah. He is the law, and now he is the new covenant, and not one iota of that can be not performed or not done.
Real quick, we have a follow-up from Aaron. Actually, Father, there are significant differences in the Coptic liturgy, and if I'm not mistaken, they use Saint Basil's liturgy.
Well, if they do, I mean, still the St. Basil's liturgy has essentially, I should say it in reverse. The St. John's Christmas liturgy has, 90% of all the components of St. Basil's liturgy, except St. Basil's liturgy has more of the silent prayers that are said by the priest. And there's some minute not grammatical, but word differences. But it's not really significant. The liturgy of the liturgy of St. John Chrysostom evolved out of St. Basil. It still is a divine liturgy. So yes, there might be some differences that, let's say, they use the St. Basil liturgy, but that liturgy still has all of the components of St. John's liturgy.
And real quick, we got a lot of great questions tonight. I know that we didn't get to every single one of them.
Well, we never do.
Which is a good problem to have. But I want to make sure that we don't skip this one for this evening. It just came in from Mauricio, who says, I'm not Orthodox. I had a relationship. We were not married. She got pregnant without us planning it.
Okay.
Unfortunately, she lost the baby.
Oh, man.
And left. I'm doing this the wrong way. Should I go after her? How?
Well, you are the father, and again, I don't know all the details.
She did lose the baby, so she lost the baby and left.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Okay, all right.
But should he still go after her?
It could be something. From, I should say, from personal experience. I've never lost a baby, but from personal parish experience, that is a devastating thing for a woman in particular, for the guy too, but it is particularly devastating for the woman. So it could be something that she needs time, right? So there could be a myriad of factors of why she left, one of which is the fact that she just needs time to consider everything that has happened, by herself. So I certainly wouldn't give up, but she just may need space for her to determine, how she's going to move forward. But you can certainly talk to her about the fact that you want to move forward with her, if that's what you want.
And may I add something? If for some reason you fear that she's self-destructive, it might not be a bad idea to reach out and make sure she has a good
support system. Yes. That's a good point, Dimas. Absolutely. Whether that's you or her family or her good friends, yes.
It doesn't always have to be about you.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Question from John Paul. My parents are extremely upset about my journey from
Protestantism
to Orthodoxy. They wanted to argue, and it has really stressed me out. Any advice for how to carry on dialogue without arguing in circles?
We've had this question before. So a big part of how you're going to approach this is going to be your age. If you're a teen and you're living with your parents, then you are still kind of bound by their rules. You can still explore Orthodoxy, but you just have to tread a little bit more carefully in terms of how this becomes dinner conversation. If you are grown, if you're married and grown up, and you're living by yourself and your parents don't like it, it is what it is. This is now how I am experiencing Christ, and I am my own man, and I have my own family, and this is how we're going to live our life. And if you don't like it, it is what it is. So in order for me to correctly answer the question, part of it is going to have to depend upon where you are, in your life. If you're a college kid, okay, then a big part of college is exploring. And right now, that's the answer. I'm exploring. I haven't left Protestantism, but I'm exploring Orthodoxy, and it's speaking to me, and I want to continue that discussion, and I need you to support me in that. I don't ask you to agree with me, but I need you to support me. Like I said, if you're a young teen, 11, 12, 15, okay, that discussion needs to be a little bit, you're still under your parents' kind of tutelage and guidance, and you just have to be a little bit more sensitive to, the fact that they want to make sure that you're not getting into a cult, right? But if you're a grown man and married, it's your decision, it's your life. You've got to move on the way that you think is appropriate.
Question from Athanasios. Hi, Father. Just because you're speaking about books not super religious, never have read the Bible, what's a good one to start with?
What's a good Bible to start with, or a book?
The question is, since you're speaking about books, they're not super religious, they've never read the Bible, what's a good book to start with? Of which, Athanasios, just to let you know, I just included the link to a reading list in the chat.
And now, so he must have picked the name Athanasios, because Athanasios is probably one of the greatest defenders of Christianity that we have. And he says, I'm not very religious. So he must have just picked that name, because, you couldn't pick the better name to represent the Christian faith.
Why don't you start reading what he wrote?
Well, you could, but, it's like somebody saying, I'm interested in physics, and you give him Stephen Hawking's term paper.
No, what I mean is, I don't know, I guess it's my own weird way of thinking, but when I was a kid, and I was named Demosthenes, nobody could ever pronounce my name, but, when I started reading, I started developing, one of the very first things I wanted to do is find out the person I was named after. And luckily for me, Demosthenes was quite an orator. So there are a lot of written work by him, but it might be an interesting place to start if he's such a big defender of Christianity.
He's right. He's huge. But
Basic. Let's start with kindergarten.
Well, I really like this book. This is really a great primer, because it literally takes you from the very early church, and I'm talking about the apostolic, the apostles' church. It takes you then. It takes you through the early church of the patristic fathers, so that you learn about names like Athanasius, Cyril, Justin, like that. Then it takes you into the Christian Middle Ages. It takes you through the Reformation, through then Enlightenment, and how Christianity got influenced by Enlightenment. It takes you then from the age of ideologies from 1914 to 1989. So it's just a really good book. It's a good book about the evolution of Christianity from its very beginnings to where it is now. And it'll give you a nice overview to say, okay, here's what the church looked like with the apostles. Here's what it looked like with the Holy Fathers. Here's what it looked like under the Catholic Church, the Reformation, Enlightenment. It takes you all the way through. I think I really enjoyed, and it's still a resource for me.
And every book we talked about tonight is in the description of this video if you want to look it up.
Good.
Next question's from Michael. Glory be to Jesus Christ. Why do the Greek Orthodox parishes in America do the Protestant thing and bring in the distraction of the organ during the Divine Liturgy? We don't have them here in Canada.
So I'm going to direct you to our website, I don't know if you're able to do that online though. And the January issue of our Good News, my article was on the evolution of the organ in America. I wrote a 2-page article about the evolution of the organ, and actually, Patriarch Athenagoras' love when he was in Smyrna, was it Smyrna that he was from? He loved the organ. They had an organ in the Greek church there, and now we're talking the 20s. So the church has the organ has a long history in America. Now, in answer to the question, when the Greeks came here, they wanted to be Americans. They wanted to just do the American thing. So when they went to church, there was no Greek church here, right? Greek Orthodox church. So they went to Protestant churches, and Protestant churches and Catholic churches had organs. And when they built their churches, they said, hey, that's nice. We like that sound. You know, it's not what we heard in Greece, but we want to do that. And they liked the idea of the choir. So that caught on here because of the heavy Protestant influence. You know, in Canada, Greek Orthodoxy grew up a little bit different, where there was an establishment of bishops that came and they set in place churches. So they didn't have to, you know, go to or buy a Protestant church. I mean, they were building their own churches. So Canada was able to, I think, more preserve the historical Orthodox church. But Athenagoras himself, he loved the organ. And so he saw no problem with having the organ as part of the as part of the liturgical rite. But like I said, if you go to our website and you go to new,
actually, I've already included the link in the chat.
There you go. I've got a little article that I wrote just about that idea. So take a peek at that.
If we can do a really quick clarification on John Paul's question, because their parents were upset about the journey from Protestantism to Orthodoxy. And the parents are arguing, and it's really stressed him out. Specifically, any specific advice on how to carry on dialogue with them without it turning into a circular arguments?
But he didn't give any indication of, like, is he a teen? Is he married? Is he? We don't have.
But I mean,
because
generally speaking,
I mean, so okay, so very, very, very generally speaking, you have to take the Eastern Orthodox approach of being a silent witness. Okay. You have to start from a point of, you have to start from a point of commonality. Okay. So discuss those things that Protestantism and Orthodoxy have in common. And there are a number of intersection points. We believe that God is one, but behaves in a Trinitarian manner, meaning that there's a Holy Trinity. We believe in Father, Son, Holy Spirit, but God is one. They can't argue that point. Number two, that we believe that God the Father sent his Son for our salvation, to redeem us from our sins. You can't really argue that point, right? And that worship is only due to Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. That will help the argument of, oh, well, you guys pray to saints and you pray to the Virgin Mary, and you can say, oh, no. Worship is only for the Trinity. And so start with those points and stay on those points so that there's nothing to argue. And then once they kind of start to see that this is not, because again, I mean, I have experience with this. A lot of times that person in a Protestant family who's exploring Orthodoxy, the Protestant parents or the Protestant spouse is very nervous about them entering into some kind of Jim Jones thing, you know, and they're going to drink Kool-Aid or some kind of goofy thing, all right? So they don't know who we are because we don't talk a lot about who we are. So
we wouldn't put it in Kool-Aid, we'd put it in wine.
We put it in wine. That's right. They may think that's right. It's cool. Yeah. So start from those intersection points of commonality and stay away from deep theology. You can study that on your own. And once they begin to see that, hey, you know what? The Orthodox are a Christian faith, they will then begin to ask questions. And just, again, and just leave it at that. Silent witness. You're exploring, that's fine, but make sure that they understand where we intersect, in terms of, and there are many, many points of commonality and intersection.
Santa Man 1 has a suggestion.
Okay.
Rather than arguing with your parents, invite them to church with you. It helps to remind Protestants that they also pray to saints every time they visit their parents' graves and thank them for looking out for them.
I like the second part for sure. Thank you for looking out for them. I like that part. Again, you have to be prepared for
standing a lot in the Orthodox Church.
Well, it's not just that. They have to be prepared, because I've also run into this problem too. They have to be prepared for the pomp and circumstance of an Orthodox liturgy. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to a non-denominational service, but it's kind of it's just.
It can go all over the place.
I mean, he's wearing jeans. He may be wearing sandals. He certainly doesn't have a tie on. He's just, depending upon, it could be very, very loose.
Non-denominational, a lot of the ones I've seen also tend to lean a little bit more Pentecostal. So you're going to run into heavenly language, speaking in tongues, etc. Right. So it could be a very disorienting experience for somebody walking from a Protestant church or Catholic church to non-denominational or Pentecostal,
Right. Well, certainly. So if you don't prepare them and then they come in, why are they tromping around in all that gold and get up, right? Or why are they so showy? And then what's that with the incense? Are they Buddhists now? Or, what are they doing with that incense stuff? And then that language, is that Pentecostal language? What are they speaking in tongues? So I'm very nervous about introducing the uninitiated into a liturgy service. That can be very overwhelming for those that haven't grown up in our faith. So that's why I'm cautious. I would prepare them for that experience. So have those discussions, talk about the commonality, and then, maybe say, what? Why don't you come with me one Sunday? But I would give that a little bit of time. Prepare them for what they're going to see.
You know what got a lot of my friends interested, oddly enough? It's not to put it, not to pat ourselves on the back or anything, but they never would have paid attention if it wasn't something that that I was involved in. But the video specifically that we made, how communion is prepared, and having people see that step-by-step process. So the response I got was, I didn't even know that there was such a church out there.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
So maybe something like that, something that kind of introduces and demystifies the harder to understand.
That's a good, that's a good point too, is that some of our videos, I think, can help in that preparation process. Yeah. So even having them sit down together and watch one of our liturgies, right? And then show them, okay, you're going to see this, and that's what he's doing over here, and that's what he's doing over here. So maybe, kind of a YouTube how-to. Yeah. Whoa.
Last question is from Gus. Hi, Father. When do you get to ascend into heaven, and how many have ascended into heaven already?
Wow. Again, that's really mind of God stuff. We can't say, that anybody has received their heavenly crowns. We pray that that's happened, right? At funerals and stuff, we pray that they will receive their heavenly crowns, based on what we know of them. But then there's people that you look at and you think, man, those people are going straight to hell. But you don't know their mind, right? Only God knows their mind. So the Orthodox can't answer that question. Because number one, judgment has not come yet, okay? So the best that we can say is that they're receiving their partial judgment right now, which is they're seeing heaven or they're seeing hell. Actually, we believe that they're going to see a little bit of both. All right. But to say how many people now have received their crown, I think the only person that we can say, absolutely for sure is the Virgin Mary, right? Most likely the apostles, right? Because he said the apostles will sit. But besides that, only God knows their mind.
Moses and Elijah.
Oh yeah, they went up. They got transfigured. They were up there on Mount Tabor, I believe. Yes. So we'll include them too. Yes.
All right, we had a lot of questions tonight that we didn't get to. I'm seeing a few very interesting ones, unfortunately, from Aaron and Dinosaur Head and Gus and so forth. If we didn't get to your question tonight, please save it and submit it again next week. At this particular point, we first started doing this as a 1-hour show.
Yeah, and John's sitting over here and he's like, "This was supposed to be an hour."
No, it's
you
fine.
You have taken my.
It did evolve. Now it became a 90-minute show, and now I'm starting to think that down the line we may turn this into a 2-hour.
Oh, good Lord! Holy smokes! So
With a
we'll
special
never
after
get
show?
these guys back for
No,
2 hours.
fine.
Oh my goodness!
We'll
But
go to
John,
bed.
thank you very much.
No
we really
problem.
appreciate that you staying and getting us through the questions, because I know there's a huge list and we just need that expertise to help us kind of sort through all that. So
M. Horvath adds Enoch to the list.
Enoch, that's right. Okay, Enoch. So, but it's a small
It's a small
list. Small list.
And me, of course, but
Yeah, good that you're thinking that. Okay, good that you're thinking
I
that.
gotta think
That's it.
positively. I aim high, man.
Aim high. That's right. So, but again, thanks everybody. Again, as always, some really great questions. Again, to my gift giver there for that beautiful collection. Where'd the book? Oh, for that beautiful Synaxarion for the saints. Very much appreciated. So I know that this is not only going to help me for the show, but this will also help me for the research that we do in our Bible studies and bulletins and things like that. So again, thank you very much for that. You guys have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful week. Great weekend. And we'll see you all next week if we don't see you on Sunday. John, once again, thank you very much, sir.
No problem.
Have a good night.